Okay, once again, good evening and welcome back to the We Are Marshall podcast. My name is Stephen Marshall and this is my co host Bill McIntyre. As always, we're just two guys discussing the issues of the day, laying out the facts of those issues, and then giving you our viewpoint and our opinion. We'd love it here at the We Are Marshall podcast if you would go to all of our social media, whichever you choose, whether it be YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Locals, X, Storyful, or go to where our channel is populated on Rumble, which is an application free to download, just like YouTube, but they do not censor. They are a free speech platform. So go check them out, follow, subscribe, like, and share all our podcasts. If you follow and subscribe the channel, you will get notification of the many things that Bill and I are doing, especially to build up a members area on our website, wearemarshallpodcast.com, where you can go get access to all of our content and subscribe to the website so then we can get you a members area and start giving you some content that is just for the members of the website. Also, we'd love it for you to go check out our sponsors. We've got Local Prints New Hampshire, a screen printing company that can cover all of your screen printing needs. And then we've got MateConnector.com, a large dating website with all the bells and whistles of the big players in the dating market, but for a much, much more inexpensive price. So go check out our sponsors. Go to all our social media, check it out so that you can like, share, and subscribe. And if you have any questions or issues on anything to do with this podcast, our writing content, or anything, you can reach myself, Steve, at wearemarshallpodcast.com, and you can reach Bill at wearemarshallpodcast.com. Now, as usual, we've got a lot. We're going to jump right into some stories. There was a big news story here today, and that's the one I'm going to start with, and that's Joe Biden classified documents report is a huge win for Donald Trump. The expected upcoming release of the report into President Joe Biden's handling of classified documents will be beneficial to Donald Trump no matter what the findings, a political expert has said. Special counsel Robert Hur could release his findings into Biden's handling of sensitive materials as soon as this week. With the White House said to be concerned, they could be potentially embarrassed for the president heading into the 2024 election. While Hur is not expecting to recommend a criminal case be launched after Obama-era classified documents were discovered at Biden's private residence in Delaware and former office at the Penn Biden Center in Washington, D.C., Biden's aides have expressed concern. Hur's report could include damaging photos which showed how Biden stored classified documents, Axios reported. Ever since Hur was appointed by Attorney General Merrick Garland to look into Biden's handling of classified documents last January, Trump has frequently asked why the president is not also facing criminal charges while he has been charged with 40 federal offenses under special counsel Jack Smith's classified documents probe. Grant Rear, a professor of political science at Syracuse University's Maxwell School of Citizenship and Public Affairs, said that even if Hur's report does not allege any criminal wrongdoing, Biden's team is rightfully concerned about the political damage that this report could do, especially if it contains potentially embarrassing photos, is the assertion of equivalencies. And this will no doubt play into that as Trump continues to deal with his legal issues, Rear told Newsweek. I would even imagine some narrative to the effect that if this is what Biden's own Justice Department produces and concludes, just imagine how bad it really is. One of the biggest differences between Biden and Trump's handling of classified documents is that Biden is not accused of attempting to obstruct the federal attempt to retrieve the sensitive materials and immediately handed all documents back to the government upon their discovery. Two of Trump's co-defendants in the federal classified documents case, Walt Nauta and Carlos de Oliveira, are also accused of helping the former president move boxes of classified documents around Mar-a-Lago before the FBI came to retrieve them, and of conspiring to delete security footage which had been subpoenaed by federal prosecutors. However, if Hur's report contains bad optics for Biden, such as photos of classified documents stored in his Wilmington garage next to his Corvette, Rhea suggests the general public will view it in the same manner as when photos of Mar-a-Lago were released by the Department of Justice showing Trump kept boxes of classified materials in bathrooms and other easily accessible areas of his Florida home. Voters not paying close attention to the details of the cases, which is most of them, are likely to simply conclude that both candidates have problems in this area, and that will help trump likely claims of equivalency, Rhea said. The one silver lining for Biden is that if the report is damaging, it does counter to some extent Trump's charges that the cases against him are just political. But in order to make that point, Biden's team will have to draw attention to the special counsel's report, which of course they won't want to do, Reher added. So the silver lining I'm describing is rather hollow in the end. Newsweek reached out to the White House for comment. The DOJ previously declined to comment on reports Her's report could be released in the coming days. Several news outlets, including the Washington Post, reported that Her will not be recommending any criminal charges for Biden or his aides when the special counsel's report is released. The White House previously confirmed the president was interviewed by Her's team as part of the classified document inquiry in October of 2023. The main concerns I have in all of this information are one, yes, unfortunately, there is no equivalency here. We've got to be honest with that. Donald Trump did try to obstruct the retrieval of them, and he even did try to have video footage deleted, which is, I mean, the epitome of obstruction. Now, the only problem that I don't like that they're not pointing out with Biden's is Biden held on to these for a very long time. Trump just left office and they got right on him about it. Biden had these since he was vice president.
Yeah, these are Obama era, yeah.
Yeah, and some, from my understanding, might even be from when he was a senator, but the details of that are not out. So when I look at the optics of this, it's not as Trump would say, in my opinion. Trump was much more nefarious in his actions and in the documentation from what I've seen of what he's done.
Yeah,
what do you think?
Well, he's right. I mean, I was curious what angle you were going to take. I want to remind people out there, as you become more familiar with our podcast, that what we do here is we don't rehearse. Steve and I will talk about what our topics are going to be, but we don't tell each other what we're going to be looking at and how we're going to handle things. So everybody's approach is different, and I thought Steve was going to take a different approach with this. He told me the story, but the fact is that I'm glad he said that, because it isn't apples to apples, and Trump did put up, that the silver lining or the critical difference of the two stories is that Trump put up some resistance. And I think the most that you can expect out of this story, well, that it will show some hypocrisy, which exists, that we're going to continue to pound on, and other people either don't want to address or refuse to admit exists, okay? And there is a hypocrisy, because when this story led, and not just on Fox News, this story led on CNN and everything else, they showed the first picture of a partial view of Joe Biden's Corvette and an open garage door and a pile of almost soggy-looking boxes, lopsided with papers hanging out of it. It was real shoddy. I mean, basically, it looks like a neighborhood kid could have walked into the garage while Joe was polishing the vet and taking something. So, yes, of course, the question remains what's in those documents, but it was very, very careless. And the way they presented this story is they're not expecting charges. I got that from the beginning. But they're trying to show that there is it's not going to look good for Joe, period. That's what they're trying to say. And I don't think anybody wants – I don't want any mean-spirited shit going on. I don't want anybody to make somebody look terrible. But I do want fairness. I'm always about fairness here. We're always about fairness. And the fact is that mishandling on both sides, one is getting charges, a tremendous amount of charges, and one isn't. So the thing is, this story is being marketed as making MAGA furious. It should make anybody furious, okay? You don't have to be a MAGA Republican. Is there still a difference between a Republican and a MAGA Republican, Steve? I don't even know anymore. But
well, again, let's revisit that stupid acronym. People got to stop calling MAGA. It belittles the acronym of Make America Great Again. Listen, Any person that doesn't want to make America great again, You're the problem, okay?
Yeah.
But we got to stop. Even us, we're guilty of it at times, Bill. So we
Sure.
got to start
Sure.
removing that because it's like
It's kind of, yeah.
like a scarlet letter put on some Republicans.
Yeah, and it's like wishing the pilot would fail when he's piloting your plane. You don't want to do that. We don't.
Nope.
That's that. So this story is interesting. I want to see where it goes. I wouldn't say this has as much meat on the chicken wing as I was hoping, but it's going to be interesting to see where it goes because I think that people are waking up to a lot of things. Media bias, maybe not to the rate that I would hope, but I think people are starting to see media bias and how things are covered differently. And if they don't recognize that one person is getting pounded over something like this, and one guy is really walking away with just a little egg on his face, at the most, there's something wrong with that. And I think we need to follow the story. But
that's the thing. I don't think there's something wrong with that. Trump, he paved his own path with this situation, okay? Biden did turn them over when they located them. Did he have them in the wrong? Yes. Did Trump have them in the wrong? Yes. Should they have both given them back like they normally would? Biden did. Unfortunately, for Trump, Biden did. Trump held back and was a pain in the ass about it. So he's going to deal with the ramifications of that. But the
content of the documents also has to come into play at some point too, Trump was allegedly
comes out with Biden, but we know as we did that podcast, Trump had some pretty damning stuff on him.
Trump was alleged to have been bragging about something that was discussed behind closed doors in the Situation Room. I mean, that stuff is not dinner party fodder,
Exactly.
This is what he has.
Like we always say with every story, we're going to continue to watch this. We'll see what happens. Bill's probably right. It's just going to be a political circus. Most people are just going to look at it as a surface thing that they both had issues with classified documents, and Trump's going to get his equivalency, even though he should not. But we'll move on after that.
It's sad, though, because normally I would think that equivalency would be something that everybody would be focusing on. It shouldn't be a bullet point, but you're right. Let's move on.
Yeah, they're not going to – it's not going to matter. They're just going to see that anyway. But here the We Are Marshall podcast, we go back and forth on issues of the day. So we're now going to hand it off to Bill for the issue, his first issue that he picked for today, which is some good information that people need to learn about. Go right ahead, Bill.
All right. Now, in my recent quest to be a fair and balanced and not take the angry approach and try to look at both sides of the story, I am still going to refuse to call these people migrants. These people are illegal aliens. They are breaking the law, and they are invading our country. And I know that, I'm not in a very controversial mood, but it needs to be said what it is, because these people are breaking the country's laws, whether people choose to enforce those laws or not. It's having a tremendous effect on everything, and it's in the news constantly. And here are a couple of stories that I'm not going to lie to you. They grabbed my sensibilities by the neck and choked it out to the point where I almost passed out. This is just such a volatile issue for me. Okay, what we have here is we have released information that in New York City, illegal aliens are being given SNAP benefits in excess of what citizens of New York are getting. In some cases, significantly more than people in New York, the residents of New York are getting as a supplement to their food budget in order to, survive. It's like we used to call them food stamps, but now it's food benefits. So what we're looking at is here, hundreds of migrant families in New York will be getting more money for food than even some of the city's low-income residents. So the city is launching a new pilot program that will hand out prepaid debit cards to 500 migrant families.
Unbelievable.
And the mayor's office told Newsweek the program allots $12.52, $12.50 basically per person each day, giving each illegal, roughly $350 a month to spend on food and baby supplies. Not a lot of money, okay, but it's the point. I figure more than the maximum allotment that low-income New Yorkers receive. So if that's the case, also, you got to figure that people in New York aren't getting very much help also when it comes to supplemental.
New Yorkers on that program get $350 a month. I mean, no. Yeah. The illegal aliens are getting $350. The New York residents only get $291. Go ahead, Bill.
Right. And, not an enormous amount, but it is more. So on principle, it's wrong, right, Steve? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So supplemental nutrition assistance program, the SNAP benefits are something that people rely on. And this is very concerning to me. So right now, single households in New York are eligible to see, yep, thank you, 291, according to the state SNAP website. It gives benefits to low-income working people, senior citizens, the disabled, and others, money to purchase food products, and do not apply to alcohol, cigarettes, tobacco, non-food items, and so on and so forth. Fast food, like that. The new cards being distributed to migrant families also have restrictions. The use is limited exclusively to local bodegas, grocery stores, supermarkets, convenience stores to ensure that city funds are going to what they were allocated for. Okay, let's see if that's the case. Massachusetts had an issue with this, where people were able to use them at liquor stores and they buy lottery tickets and everything else, and they had a huge mess with that. But that doesn't seem to be the case here. Let's see how that works out. I'm going to hope that, it is going to go as planned. So those restrictions, according to the mayor's office, they stress that the cards will act similarly to SNAP benefits and electronic benefits transfer. So basically, they're getting public assistance without actually being enrolled in public assistance, which is the fear of a lot of people. I will tell you that I believe that a lot of illegals are getting federal benefits, and it will be released at some point. But I'm not going to be a conspiracy theorist here. We'll wait till that story comes out. I'm pretty comfortable in my belief on that one. But the people are really up in arms about this. Of course, if you're a low-incomers in New York, you should be really up in arms about this. But they project that this program is going to save the city $600,000 a month. So all families involved are required to sign an affidavit affirming that they will be using these cards for the intended purposes. So they're going to take their word for it. Okay. And anyone who violates the terms risks being removed from the pilot program, the mayor's office told Newsweek in a statement. So we need to dispel the rumor that we gave American Express cards to everyone, Adams said during a Monday press conference. That's just not true. He called the plan brilliant. He must have come up with it, arguing there's a cheaper, more efficient way. Great minds, Steve. More efficient way to get resources to migrants because eliminate the delivery costs associated with providing food for asylum seekers, reduce food waste situations where food aid recipients do not like the meals provided, and put money back into the local economy. Don't get me started on liking the meals. We are required to provide food and baby supplies to migrants. The only difference here, we're asking them to buy it themselves as opposed to delivering it to their door. Okay, that's a fair point. But when you start talking about how it's...
I got to pause you on that.
All right.
I got to ask you candidly, my friend, what is a fair point?
If it's less than paying individual meals being delivered to rooms and spending more resources like people on the clock, individually delivering all these meals as opposed to having them buy it themselves, that is a cost savings.
So we're going to justify giving illegal aliens money for a cost saving. I'm not
I only acknowledge that there's a savings involved. I'm not in any way endorsing the program. No, fine. I know you're not challenging me, but the story is still outrageous. It's just that one particular point on paper makes sense. Okay.
Well, okay, but with no specificity or details of the situation, where are they saving $600,000? I'm not asking you because you probably don't know.
No, I know you're not. Because they're basically allowing $11 per person, okay? And a lot of the food's being wasted because a lot of the people are missing a taste of home. I have an answer to that. Go fucking home. But that's just from me. Sorry. Having said that, though, $11 per person for meals being thrown out. Maybe they're paying DoorDash people to go to every individual rooms and all this. When you remove the overhead cost of the program and let them buy their own things, if the program goes as intended, and no program ever does, then it would be technically a savings, Steve. And I'm only trying to be reasonable and not just trash the whole thing. But overall, though, I am trashing the whole thing because it's outrageous. Okay, it really is. Because I'm sorry, there is ways to beat the system. I used to work in an area when I went to the supermarket every day, grab lunch, and I saw a person buy a gallon of water with their SNAP benefits. And they took change of like $99. They spent $1 and got cash back of $99, and they bought lottery tickets with it. So don't tell me they can't do that.
Do they give them cash back, or does it stay on a card now?
They may have reformed it, but it's basically a debit card, and you can make a transaction in which you get money back. And you can do that with like a sum of $100. And I saw people buying $1 items and getting massive amounts of cash back. And it was
Unbelievable.
it was ridiculous. I'm hoping it's been reformed. This was a few years ago, but I saw it. Even the cashier commented on it. She's like, "That's such abuse." I'm like, "The cashier is chiming in. You know, it's bad. You know."
Absolutely.
So this program, I could go on and on and on. I'm not going to. You get the idea, okay? This is about fairness to me. I see this story, and I see that this is a massive waste of resources. It's a massive misallocation of resources. It's coming from somewhere. And when this money dries up, we know for a fact that people who deserve it, people who actually live here, people who are legal, legal, capital letters, are going to end up being the ones who don't get it. Because, you never, ever take it away from the people who work. I mean, from the people who take. You only take it away from the people who work. And this city and this system this is just going to blow up in a very, very bad way. So this story is going to be continued a little bit with my second segment. But, I
have a couple questions.
Sure.
Like with this. So what they're saying, and you may not know this, so I'm just trying to talk to you about it.
Yeah.
They're saying that if they give them this card, they are going to have to do no other federal funds at all associated with helping these illegal immigrants.
That we know of, or at all?
At all.
Steve, I firmly believe, and I know there are people who probably call me a tinfoil hat wearing lunatic. I firmly believe that there are a lot of these people who are already getting federal benefits, Social Security, disability.
Well, they're getting like something, and that's what I'm getting at. They're trying to say it's a cost savings. All right, then you're telling me none of our federal employees or federal government agencies or anything, only this one program. And from my understanding, this is only a New York City program, correct? Or right. New York program, or is it the city or the whole state?
Well, I think the story is more about the amount, not how many people are doing it. But I think the outrage comes from the fact that the allocation to the illegals is higher than the allocation is to legals.
Well, that's a fact. We just proved that. Yeah. But what I'm trying to get is a little.
But they may do it in Chicago. They may be doing it in Denver. The three biggest cities being killed right now.
That's not what I'm saying. The 53 million alone is only.
Oh, that's a different story. That's a different story. This is only the snap cards.
Only the snap
They're doing snap cards and prepaid visas. Yes,
only the snap cards we know. Based upon this, you only know right now that it is in New York, the state, or the city.
I want to say it's a state policy. But like I said, the crux of the story is that in this particular city, with this particular program, the benefits exceed those given to people who actually live in the city and in some cases work and pay taxes. So.
Well, I'm just trying to get into and look at it to see what the cascading effect is in other cities across the country.
Sure. And I wish I had more answers for you on that.
I'm just trying to dialogue it, and maybe we both would come up with some logical deduction, but. This is
I think what you just did was you created another topic to research for the next podcast.
Yeah, whether it's just isolated to there or across. But good topic, Bill. And people need to know this, just like when we broke down the border yesterday and what that count was going to be and certain things. These people need to get the minutia of many of these bills, issues, and things that are going on. But here,
the devil's in the details.
The We Are Marshall podcast. We're going to move on to our next subject. We'd also love you to go check out our sponsors, Local Prints New Hampshire, out of Hampstead, New Hampshire, a screen printing company that can handle all your screen printing needs. And we'd like you to go check out MateConnector.com, a large dating website with all the features of the big players in the dating market, but for a much more inexpensive price. Go check out our website where you can see Bill's blogging, number of things that we're doing. My first novel that I just published, The Unforeseen Enemy. Yes, that is a shameless plug that I will do to get my book out there for you. But then
you're selling copies, brother. You're selling copies, so keep doing it.
Selling copies. We're doing well. But we're going to move on to the next topic. And this one's going to be correlated, like we discussed, with the classified documents with Biden. We're going to be fair, like Bill always states. And we're going to go and talk about Trump and his classified documents case. But prosecutors hit back at Trump accusations of political bias in his classified documents case. So special counsel Jack Smith's legal team on Friday rejected President Donald Trump's claims of political bias in the classified documents case against him in Florida. The 67-page filing came in a response to an effort by Trump's lawyers to get prosecutors to turn over certain documents that they claim will serve as evidence of bias and misconduct surrounding records that were retrieved from the former president's Mar-a-Lago residence. Smith's team urged the court to deny Trump's request in its entirety. Discovery requests must be based on specific demands tied to the case for items material to preparing the defense, prosecutors wrote. Instead of meeting those standards, they added, Trump's team was seeking records based on speculative, unsupported, and false theories of political bias and animus. Prosecutors contended that Trump's recent court filing sought to cast a cloud of suspicion over responsible actions by government officials diligently doing their jobs. Referrals to offices with authority to consider the security concerns prompted by the revelation that Trump possessed classified records at Mar-a-Lago was, again, entirely appropriate and in no way indicative of political bias, they wrote. Prosecutors also disputed the Trump team's timeline of events leading up to the Mar-a-Lago search. They defended the National Archives and Records Administration's formal referral to the Justice Department in February 2022, which they said came after months of efforts to retrieve government documents from Trump after he had left office. A spokesperson and an attorney for Trump did not immediately respond for a request for comment Friday night. Friday's filing comes after Trump's attorneys indicated in a filing last month that they'll argue prosecutors carried out a politically motivated and biased probe into the former president's handling of classified documents with the goal of damaging his 2024 bid. Trump's attorneys had highlighted his victory in the Iowa caucuses and accused prosecutors of disregarding discovery obligations and Justice Department policy in an effort on behalf of the Biden administration to slow Trump's presidential campaign. Trump has pleaded not guilty to charges against him, which relate to willfully retaining national defense information in connection with classified documents that were uncovered at his Mar-a-Lago property more than a year after he left office and scheming to delete security video at the Mar-a-Lago property. Co-defendants Walt Nauta, a top aide, and Carlos de Oliveira, a maintenance supervisor at Mar-a-Lago, have pleaded not guilty to charges stemming from the allegations that they, too, were involved in an effort to delete security video. The case is currently set to go to trial in May. It was initially expected to commence after Trump's federal election subversion trial in Washington, D.C., but the judge overseeing that case postponed the trial on Friday, writing that it would no longer begin on March 4th. An appeals court has yet to weigh in on Trump's argument that the case should be dismissed on presidential immunity grounds. But they did meet today and said that that will not hold any weight. He does not have presidential immunity. The postponement in Washington means it's likely that the Manhattan District Attorney's case, set to begin on March 25th, will be the former president's next trial. Trump faces 34 felony counts of falsifying business records related to alleged hush money payments to adult film star Stormy Daniels that were made shortly before the conclusion of his 2016 presidential campaign. He has pleaded not guilty to all charges. Now let's look at all of that, okay? I'm going to go grab right at the end the Stormy Daniels stuff, okay? There's 34 felony counts. That sounds daunting, doesn't it? But it's just 34 different payments that was the culmination of the whole payment tour. So that is not, it's kind of the same charge just over and over. To me, it's a little redundant, and anything that would happen, I believe it would be concurrent with one of the charges.
Right. It makes it look like more than it is what it does.
Exactly. And that's where some of, I will have to agree with them, the political bias comes in that's going on. They're trying to muddy the waters, make it look even worse, almost how they tried to belittle Biden's, but they got that, Trump's using that equivalency with his classified documents. But the big thing in here, Bill, was the substance of what Trump had. If you remember back when I went over detailed and specifically what they had. One of your
greatest stories.
It was terrible. And then on top of it, the fact that I didn't realize there was a year in between that time. So not only did he tried to, obstruct these folks for over a year. I mean, Biden had them longer, But I do have to concede that as soon as they found them, they were turned right over and there was no
Sure.
obstruction of that. But Trump continued to do it. And even after he said he turned stuff over, they had to go back again. So that was a problem. But let's hear what you have to say on this topic, Bill.
Well, okay, let's start there, okay? I guess the question has to be asked, and maybe redundant, but let's just say someone didn't check out the podcast that you did this story on. I remember it vividly. It was a great story. I actually learned something from listening to you. What were the documents? What did they contain? What was Trump trying to hold? I mean, to prevent. Why was he resisting? That's what comes to mind for me. We know of one that he was caught on a hot mic reading about an attack plan on North Korea, which was inappropriate on so many levels, politically, presidentially, ethically, morally, keep going. But I guess the question is, what are the documents? What is it that he didn't want to release? What shame was associated, or embarrassment was associated when they found out what he took on his own understanding, apparently self created understanding of what presidential immunity is. So that'll be my first question for you. I don't know if you can answer it, if it's more rhetorical. And I guess the second thing I want to ask is, Steve, do you think there is bias?
Well, I think there's definitely with the landscape we have politically right now, there's bias, okay? And then if we're going to be honest with each other,
in relation to this story, yes.
Well, of course, there's bias. Yeah. I mean, there's political bias. They're trying the amount of charges to me is the political bias. Like I just said, the Stormy Daniels charges are kind of redundant. Okay. I believe that.
I thought that was resolved, by the way. Shame on me. I thought that was resolved already.
No, that's still going on too. Well, I thought it was resolved too, but then what happened is he resolved the case with her, but they didn't resolve the case. The feds came after him on it. That's the problem. Yep. So that's where Michael Cohen came in, and he kind of ratted him off. But now when we sit there and look at this, right? You got Nada pleading not guilty and De Oliveira pleading not guilty. That tells me, who do they have that's going to say that they conspired to destroy the video? That's going to be a problem. And who do they have that says that they conspired to do anything but move the boxes around Mar-a-Lago because they were putting them into a different place that they thought were more secure? I mean, when I really look at the case, I'm aggravated with Trump, like I am on many things, that like he won't shut the hell up many times. But I'm aggravated that he took it to this level, knowing the scrutiny that he was under. I just can't fathom how an intelligent guy like that would do such a stupid thing.
Well, he's as brazen as he is intelligent, Steve. He's kind of like the come and get me, here I am. Like Gaddafi did in '86. And drew a line in the sand, didn't think that anybody was going to cross it, and Reagan sure did.
Me if you can.
Yeah, but the thing is that, let's face it, okay? If Donald Trump was not running for president, all right, this wouldn't be happening. None of it would have. Maybe the documents, but not to the extent. Not as many trumped up. I love that play on words. Trumped up charges. This whole story is.
I don't know, too. They still might have trumped up the charges due to the fact that Trump is so powerful in the Republican Party that they may be just so frustrated with him that they would go after him to destroy the Republican Party. He
commands a tremendous amount of influence. He's not holding any office right now, and he has the entire Republican Party terrified they'll not fall in line behind him, with the exception of maybe the Freedom Caucus, But the thing is about this story is that that's the whole thing. I see the bias, I see the handling of it, and I see the motivation behind it, and I just don't think the meat is there. But the story does bother me because I think that he has some stuff he shouldn't have on the pretenses that he shouldn't have committed it. And it bothers me. So let's just say, if I was a drooling Trump supporter, there's something wrong with this. I don't think he should have taken things that could jeopardize my nation's security.
And I would hope any follower of Trump would feel the same way. I mean, it's all about just right. You know what I mean? But good topics. We just got, as you can see, a lot of people will probably watch this, Bill, and think you and I are Republican, okay? Yeah, we're definitely independent, my friends. We do lean probably fiscally to the right. We do like some of the things that the left would do, but it's that fiscal stuff. How are they going to do it?
I'd
That's
say
the
we're
problem.
liberally. I think we're liberal, socially liberal. If I had this
In
label on
some
it, I really
ways, we
would.
may be. But I just
Yeah.
wanted to point that out so you folks see that we're going to go after Trump just like we're going to go after Biden. But with that
Yeah.
being said, here at the We Are Marshall podcast, we're going to let Bill. This is a big area of the podcast where Bill has a couple segments, and he's got a good one that's going to correlate to his initial one next. So here you go, Bill. Let's run with your two segments here.
All right. First, I want to take a second and ask you to go to our media outlet sites and hit the like button, hit the follow button, hit the share button. If you got an issue with what we're saying, tell us. We're not trying to make everybody agree with us, but we want you to understand what we're saying and why we're saying it. And check out our sponsors. This local prints, they ship nationwide. So our merchandise, which is going to be on our webpage soon, is going to be made by this company, and we ship all over the continent of the United States. So, I mean, this is good stuff here. We're going to turn you on to some good work. And, of course, Made Connector, you're feeling the need for love, hit the site. Save a little money at the same time. So, okay, now moving on to the next story. It's a bit of a continuation to the other story, but it is a separate story. It just comes at basically the same time. These are both dropped yesterday. New York City has launched a $53 million pilot program to hand out prepaid credit cards to migrant illegal alien families. So call it what you want, but this is different than the SNAP benefits because this goes beyond sustenance and a replacement for an $11 per meal cost that the city's been absorbing. This is something that's a little bigger, and it's potentially very dangerous should people latch on to this idea. As hardworking Americans struggle to make ends meet in this economy, Bidenomics, gotta love it. New York City Mayor Eric Adams announced plans to distribute $53 million of city migrants, illegal aliens, on prepaid credit cards. Mayor Eric Adams' administration will soon start handing out these credit cards. The families being put up in Big Apple hotels at the cost of $400 per night, I might add. And this is what the Washington Post had come up with. So the $53 million pilot program run by the New Jersey company Mobility Capital Finance will provide asylum seekers, illegal aliens, arriving at the Roosevelt Hotel with a city cash to help them buy food. It will start with a group of 500 migrant families in short-term hotel stays and will replace the current food service offered there. So this is first time they put a real number on it. Before they were only talking about, how it exceeded the regular SNAP benefits. This is actually in addition to the SNAP benefits.
Oh, yeah.
So they're starting with a program of 500 families in short-term hotels stays, and it will replace the food service. So the cards can only be used at food outlets like bodegas and stores, and it's akin to the SNAP program. But like I said, the $53 million is what people were unaware of. That's an enormous sum of money. And even 50 Cent reacted to this. And he said, interesting, he says, maybe Trump is the answer. I got a kick out of that. At which time the mayor, who instead of recognizing that he's being criticized by a high-profile figure, the mayor weighs in and he says something along the lines of, hey, 50 Cent, hit me up, which is just a really intelligent way for a mayor to speak. And maybe I write a song about me. Well, the way the guy chases microphones, like Houthi missiles chase down ships in the Red Sea, that'll probably happen. But this is an outrageous program. Okay, so here are the details of it. The program will initially cover 500 migrant families. The prepaid pads are only used in stores. The affidavit, and if it succeeds, it's going to end up covering 15,000 migrant families currently staying in hotels. So this story is just it's a slight continuation of the other one, but the reaction was what got me. Okay, because like 50 Cent, for example, has always been on the cusp of being an independent, but he really hasn't come down and out openly for Trump before. And for him to say that 50 Cent, that Trump is the answer, that's a big story because Trump is already making major gains in the minority communities. And this is something that should warn. And Eric Adams needs to be very careful how he does these things. Because he's draining resources from the people that deserve them, people that pay for them. And this is just one example. And then you look at Chicago, another city that's being hit really hard in the situation. Chicago has 17,000 families, but it's probably closer to 20,000 families that are going to be looking for something like this. So you're going to expect Chicago most likely will follow suit. And the question is, are we going to know about it, or are we not going to know about it? Are we going to be made aware, or is it going to be something that's slipped underneath, slipped under the radar? Was Adams just too interested in his image and diving in front of the cameras for a cameo that he let the cat out of the bag, or is this story a face value story and being told as it's supposed to be? I don't know. But this, like I said, a very short segment. I just want to voice my outrage at the amounts that we're talking about here and the potential for total abuse here. So,
let's lay out a couple things here, okay? This is where I'm concerned. I like that you pointed out, will we find out about these other cities in Chicago? Most of these places that are going to do a plan like this, we would agree, Bill, will probably be Democratic areas, correct?
Yep.
So then the media would probably lay cover for them, correct?
If all goes as the system tends to work, absolutely.
So we normally would probably hear someone breaking some editorial or something discussing this particular subject, but to protect the Democratic leaders, they may not. So you may be right. We may not hear about this. But
that's my concern.
But let's look at these numbers, and let's look at them at that small number that they laid out for you of 500, okay?
Yeah.
What I did is I took those 500 people, okay, and I put them on the SNAP program because they would be eligible. I put them on the prepaid credit card program. I put them on a $400 a night hotel, and we don't know how many of them are to a room or how that works. But let's say each one of them gets their own room. Okay, that's all we've got to go on right now. How much money do you think that's going to cost in the first 30 days?
First 30 days.
Just a rhetorical question anyway. It's going to cost
millions.
It's going to cost $6.675 million in 30 days. So, with that being said, the SNAP program's going to continue until they want to stop. So that's not going to be just 1 month. Do we know anything about these prepaid credit cards? Is that a one-time thing, or is that going to be something going forward like this?
They're going to be reloaded every 28 days, just like the SNAP cards are.
So this is then theoretically $6.675 million per month.
Ongoing and increasing as the program grows, yes.
And just in the state of New York we're talking about, okay?
Yep.
We are constantly talking about that this country had to print money to continue to maintain our economy and another thing. When that's being said, when we have to print money, that's telling you, which most people probably don't understand, that we don't have enough money to do what we're doing. So we print money to just make more money to make it look like we have it. Well, where the hell are we going to get $6.6 million just in New York? And if these programs pop up in Chicago, California, all these states like you're talking, because from our experience, Bill, once a Democrat gets a program like that, they all jump on it and they all try to do it. And why would they do it? Down the road, when you get these illegal aliens, when they start to be somehow get, citizenship and a mass, batching of people to get citizenship, they're all going to remember they were given SNAP, prepaid credit card, hotel rooms by the Democrats. And guess what, Republicans? You're going to lose again. And I have to say this because even though it wasn't a subject today, here we go again with the Republicans blowing it. Mayorkas gets off on an impeachment and a bill. Yeah, the bill got crushed, but it didn't get crushed in the fashion we would like it to. But that's all I have to say on that, Bill.
Well, I just want to throw one more.
But then run right into this day in history. So go right ahead. Yep.
I just want to say one last thing here. Okay, let's talk about dependency. Okay, first of all, the hard reality of it is that $350 a week for a lot of these people come from very poor countries where they never even probably had, well, not everybody, but there might be people who never even really had a regular meal.
That is $350 a month, though, just so that for the
month. Thank you. My mistake. That is something that would be considered a very valuable resource to an illegal, And why wouldn't they take it? Then you add in the credit card, okay? You added that in for the pilot program. They're going to continue that. Why would anybody, even myself included, give up, a prepaid credit card that's going to, be there as long as I need it for? Why would I give that up? Okay. So you talk about dependency. Then you talk about more and more people getting on it. You remember welfare was originally a great idea, right? It was supposed to help the disenfranchised, the poor, the disabled, the people who simply had no means of supporting themselves. And what did it do? It got abused beyond belief, and it continues to get worse every single decade, right? So these programs are going to grow and grow and grow. And then when you try to take people off it, the Democrats are going to go, oh, you can't take this away from them. They depend upon it because you made them depend upon it.
Yeah,
Poverty,
absolutely.
we have spent trillions of dollars on the war on poverty, and all we've done is created more poor people because you're not picking people up. All you're doing is you're leaning over them as they're sitting down, and you're giving them shit. That doesn't make a person get up and do
as
something.
As much as we loved Nancy Reagan and the Reagans, right?
Yep.
Nancy Reagan was the DARE person, correct?
She was all about drug abuse. Yep.
We lost it. The government took control of it and lost it. This is the same thing.
Yeah.
The government took control of this, and they're losing it. Keep going, Bill.
Well, no, that's really it. I just want to talk about the potential for abuse and dependency. And like I said, why wouldn't people? If you want to talk about a way to get more people to come to this country, talk about this program some more and a couple of louder networks. And believe me, we're going to see that border freaking collapse because Jesus Christ, they're coming here. And they're being given things that a lot of Americans or people don't qualify for welfare, don't qualify for disability, aren't getting. And just by virtue of crossing a border illegally and invading a country, you're being given. I'm not saying that you can live on it. Okay, I'm not saying that it's a career path or retirement plan, but it's an enablement that never goes the way you want it to. You want to say that, once people are on their feet, then they'll make it. No, people don't ever get on their feet when they're handed something. That includes everybody.
Teach a man how to fish, and he'll feed himself forever rather than continue to give him the food, You're correct. You're so right on this, Bill. It's ridiculous. The dependency issue is huge. I agree. We continue to do this. We did it with our welfare systems, as you said. They good intention in there to do it. Democrat idea, good intention. This thing, we want to help people that are in trouble, but we can't help everybody, and we should help the people in this country before we help anybody that comes into this country.
You probably know this, Steve, okay? But do you know that Lyndon Baines Johnson was actually caught on a hot mic after he pushed through the Civil Rights Act? The Civil Rights and the Welfare Society Act. You know what he said?
What's that?
This will have the N-word voting Democrat forever.
And that's what they wanted. Unfortunately, we don't think that about any group, just so you know. But they do think that about the group.
But that's a quote. I'm not paraphrasing. He said that, and that's what it's about. You are buying voters, and that is just pathetic.
Maybe for the next podcast, Bill, we can play that quote if you find it. But let's proceed. Bill does this nice segment here that we all learn something on, usually every single podcast here at the We Are Marshall podcast, and that's the This Day in History. And this one I think is pretty good. So let's hear this, Bill.
Yeah, well, this is This Day in History. Beatlemania arrived in New York. Let's stick with the New York theme, right?
Why not?
It's a very different New York in 1964. February 7th, 1964, Pan Am Yankee Clipper Flight 101 from London Heathrow lands at New York's Kennedy Airport, and Beatlemania arrives. And we've all seen the video. If you haven't, the Ed Sullivan Show, it was just a free-for-all. Otherwise, well-conducted and composed young women were just losing their ever-loving minds over the Fab Four. They were not the beginning of the British invasion. The Dave Clark Five was, but they continue to attribute the Beatles for this. And it was the Rock and Roll Quartet had just scored the first #1 U.S. hit the days before with I Want to Hold Your Hand. And when they arrived at Kennedy, when they were all dressed in similar suits and pudding bowl haircuts, as they were called, they were greeted by 3,000 screaming fans and almost caused a riot. 2 days later, McCartney, Ringo, Lennon, and Harrison made their first appearance on the Ed Sullivan Show. Although it was difficult to hear the performance because the girls were actually screaming so loud that they could not properly even give good audio on the show. An estimated 73 million television watchers, or about 40% of the entire U.S. population, watched it.
Crazy at that
That's
time.
that's bigger than the MASH finale. That's
Yeah.
huge. So they made their first public concert appearance on the 11th at the Coliseum in Washington, D.C., with 20,000 fans in attendance. And the next day, they gave 2 back-to-back performances at New York's Carnegie Hall. And police were actually forced to close off the streets. And on February 22nd, they went back to England. I'm not going to go on about the Beatles' history. We all know it. You know, they started off as a pop fluff group, and then they started getting into political stuff and revolutionary stuff, and they became cultural icons. And I'm going to go on the record as saying I've never liked the Beatles, and people have looked at me and like I had 9 heads when I say that. I guess I respect their contribution to rock and roll, but I never found their music particularly influential. I don't find it particularly interesting. And frankly, I find a lot of it annoying, even before Yoko Ono and her raped cat voice came onto the scene. So, seriously, Steve, to me, she sounds like a cat being violated. She's just
I'm a big fan of the Beatles. I know all their songs. I know the words to all their songs. I was a big fan as a kid, and I used to actually sit in my living room in Gloucester, and I'd sing the Beatles from a cassette tape. So now I'm aging myself. But
no, we know how old you are, and I have friends who love the Beatles too, and nobody holds it against me. I just personally, I was a Stones guy, you know.
That's fine.
Yeah, I like the Bad Boys better.
There you go. But they were a hugely influential rock band, though, and they were scheme things. But
they were just a complete pop phenomena.
We're at the end of the podcast. You got some good info. Now I'm going to end it with a story I found that I think is very important, especially with what's transpiring out there in the world today, with many of the things like rights that women are having and certain situations in there, what other countries are so different than ours that we kind of just take for granted many of the things that we have here in this country. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the story that could the world court itself address women's rights in Afghanistan. Okay, that's something that could possibly be done. We don't know as of yet, but we will see if this happens. And I think it's important that they may get involved and see what they can do to try to help women in a place like Afghanistan. But at this point, the International Court of Justice, possible venue to challenge systematic Taliban abuses. International attention has focused in recent weeks on the International Court of Justice in The Hague, as the United Nations' highest judicial body heard South Africa's case alleging that Israel is violating the 1948 Genocide Convention in Gaza. While a decision on the merits will likely take years, on January 26, the court issued provisional measures that include requiring Israel to prevent genocide against Palestinians in Gaza. The case is one of several human rights-based claims before the ICJ. One group looking on with great interest is Afghan women. Both inside the country and in the diaspora, the ICJ is mainly responsible for settling disputes between states over matters of international law. Some of its recent cases have concerned human rights. In November 2019, Gambia brought a case under the Genocide Convention against Myanmar regarding alleged genocide against ethnic Rohingya. In June 2023, the Netherlands and Canada filed a case against Syria, alleging it is violating the UN Convention Against Torture. Since taking power in Afghanistan in August 2021, the Taliban have imposed a brutal crackdown on women and girls, violating rights in every aspect of their lives, including their ability to study, work, live free from violence, access health care, participate in public life, move freely, or even just walk in the park. These abuses continue to escalate and are blatant violations of the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, which Afghanistan ratified in 2003. CEDAW allows states that are parties to the treaty to bring to the ICJ disputes with other states' parties concerning the interpretation or the application of the convention not settled by negotiation or arbitration. Many governments around the world have denounced the Taliban's full-scale attack on the rights of women and girls. While the International Criminal Court is investigating Taliban atrocity crimes, the ICJ offers governments that have expressed their solidarity with Afghan women another practical way to put Taliban abuses under judicial scrutiny. One which, as illustrated in other recent cases, can produce measures that could have a positive impact. Afghan women and girls deserve their day in court against the Taliban, and the ICJ could play an important role. The support of just one state party to CEDAW could make that happen. Now, to me, here we are, we're fighting to ruin women's rights in this country with a lot of woke bullshit, okay?
Ugh.
And this is real women's rights we're talking about right here. These are women, like I said, that can't even walk in the park, go to study, school, just live a life of no violence. And then in 2003, as stated, they ratified the CEDAW, which is supposed to stop this from happening, but it's not. The Taliban don't care, and we'd have to go in there with probably boots on the ground again to stop this from happening. But you got all these Muslim countries over there that a lot of them don't give a lot of rights to women. So they're the ones that need to get together and work, in my opinion, to try to figure out how they can make their societies a little more civilized, even if it is against their religion. What do you say, Bill?
I want to commend you. You just made a beautiful point. You really did. Okay. I got to tell you, and I want to say it again for people who didn't hear that. In this country, we are ruining the rights and the progress of women, and you know, and it's going the opposite direction in the rest of the world where they're trying to improve it. So good for that, but you know, just as an aside, the political correctness and the wokeness towards the whole gender thing is actually destroying the life of the women who have come so far as to achieve, I hate the word equality, but for lack of a better one, an equal footing in society, and to fight to break that glass ceiling and you know, and make things equal, which I've always been supportive of.
To lay it in simple terms, to just be treated like a human being, like everybody else.
Well, so thank you for that, Steve. But let's talk about the crux of the story. I'm just glad that some attention is being light is being shown on this issue, okay? Because this is what happens with almost any country that ends with ISTAN or has the word Islam in it, okay? Yep. Now, people don't realize that in the 1950s and 60s, both Afghanistan and Iran were progressive societies. Women wore dresses. They exposed their below the knee, but they exposed their legs. They could go to school. They could drive. They could wear makeup. They could have jobs. This is something that is outlawed in a lot of draconian Islamic societies, and Afghanistan is one of them. Now, one of the things that we really had made wonderful progress on before Jumpin' Joe just completely yanked us out of there in the most embarrassing retreat, worse than the Vietnam pullout in '73, the most embarrassing withdrawal in history, because it just handed everything back to the Taliban after all those years and all those soldiers sacrificed everything, and all the people who came back damaged permanently. And then, the money and the resources that were spent to give people what we thought was what they wanted was, you know, rights and things that we preached, that, you know, this is what we have. We want you to have it. But, you know, we're right back to it. Girls in Afghanistan can't go to school. They can't get jobs. They have to do what their husband tells them. And a woman in Afghanistan is raped. Their father will let her daughter be stoned to death for allowing herself to be raped.
Blame it on the woman, yes.
Yeah, I mean, that you think that in this country someone's saying, "Oh, look at the way you're dressed, you deserve it." You think that sounds bad? Compare it to that. Okay, and it is tragic. But we're not going to be able to fix it without going to war, like you just said, Steve. Okay, so good. Let the ICJ, who as you mentioned, made this podcast last week in regards to the allegations against Israel that they're committing genocide by carrying out the tactics that they have to get to the targets in Gaza. The situation is, from a humanitarian basis, okay, a lot of these Muslim countries, and I'm not making fun of Islam, but a lot of the more fundamental Muslim countries, women are just clearly the inferior sex, and they're the losers in the situation. and it's beyond a matter of equality. It's actually, it's not even about equality. It's about borderline like slave conditions for people, for one entire aspect of the population. Never mind how the children are treated. This is just tragic, and any light shown on this issue is a good thing. That's all I'm going to say about that.
I agree. We here at the We Are Marshall podcast will fight for women's rights till the end of the earth. Bill has 2 daughters and I have a daughter, and we want them to live a life like anybody human being on the planet, and all women and all people deserve that. But that's the end of the podcast. It was a good podcast once again. Everyone go to Amazon, buy the Unforeseen Enemy book. That's my first novel out. Go on to Amazon. Bill also has a short story episode he put out there on a thing called Vella on Amazon. If you go there, you can subscribe to that and read that. He's got his blog on the website, wearemarshallpodcast.com. You can click there and go to read all of Bill's blog posts. You can reach Bill at wearemarshallpodcast.com. And you can also go check out my biography and go buy my book and see a number of things I'm working on, and reach out to me at steve@wearemarshallpodcast.com. We'd love it if you would go to all of our social media, watch some of our episodes, share and like them all over the social media stratosphere on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Locals, X, Storyful, and do check out Rumble, which is an application just like YouTube, but they are a free speech proponent, so they will put people's stuff up there. If you go there, you can like, share, and subscribe to our podcast and get notification of any new content or endeavors that Bill and I are going on. But also go to the website. You can also subscribe on the website, and that will give you notifications of any updates or events, things going on the website, and there will be a membership area there for you too. Do continue to check out our sponsors because they're good to us. Local Prints, New Hampshire, out of Hampstead. They can handle all of your screen printing needs. And also check out MateConnector.com, the dating website with all the features of the large players in the dating area, but they're much, much more inexpensive. Once again, Bill, a lot of good information, a lot of good stuff.
Good stuff, Steve.
I appreciate it. Everyone have a good evening, and we will see you all again soon.